Monsieur Abdul?
Hamidou.
Monsieur Hamidou?
Yes, sir.
Oui. Je m'appelle Paul.
Je sais, je vous suis souvent
Oui.
à la télé. I watch you sometimes on TV.
D'accord.
So I know your name, I know who you are.
D'accord. Okay, viewers, today the French has come. I know they are laughing at me at home like something. They are laughing at me at home, butu. Bello, so tell us, where are we on Niger? Before I come to the interview, just an introduction.
Well, we're still at the loggerhead. We heard a report that, after the informal mediation of the Islamic clerics from Nigeria, who went to talk to the generals, they were willing to negotiate with ECOWAS. All of a sudden, we also had a report that they want to prosecute Bazoum for corruption. So it's more like one step forward, two steps backwards. But it could also be the fact that they are trying to raise the ante just to buy themselves some time. Because the longer it takes for ECOWAS decision, the more leverage, the more room we give them to consolidate their hold on power.
So is the force going to go or not?
Well, I think from all indication, the force will go. But what ECOWAS and Tinubu in particular is trying to do is to make sure all avenues of the dialogue and diplomacy has been exhausted. And if you look at this critically, at the moment, Nigeria has no cabinet. So we need to look at decision making in Nigeria, because whatever happens...
I want you to tell us about why does Nigeria doesn't have a cabinet? What's the problem? Didn't they do elections in February?
The election was held in February. Mm-hmm. And then there was this, horse trading behind the scene and whatever for the ministerial list to be released. But then recently some names were released and were screened by they were vetted by the National Assembly, particularly the Senate. But as to the portfolios, it has not been allocated for now. So whatever happened, the decision will surely be solely between Tinubu's decision at the moment. So he has to be very careful not to take the blame in case there's a failure. Okay, let's come to the interview. Bonjour, monsieur, once again.
Bonjour, monsieur.
So you are from Niger. Which part of Niger?
I'm from a village. It's not a village today. It's a town called Kolo, which is about 30 kilometers from Niamey, the capital city.
Okay, what language do they speak in Kolo?
They speak Zarma. Zabarma, like Ghanaians call it Zabarma. Mm-hmm. And Niger got many languages. Hausa is one of them. Zabarma is the second largest language. Mm-hmm. And then we got Fulanis, we got Arabs, we got Gourmanches, we got Tubus and Beriberi. I might probably forgot some of them, but we got many different tribes.
Okay, that's interesting. So the coup, is it a good coup or is it a bad coup?
It's a very good coup for many reasons. We know that the regime, which was overthrown recently on the 26th, 3 weeks ago, on the 26th of July, they've been in power. This particular president has been in power for 2 years. But before him, the previous president, who is Muhammad Yusufu, has been in power. They're from the same political party, and he's been in power for 10 years. And then after he was, they participated in elections, and they brought this guy over, Bazoum. First, Bazoum, we should let people know, let Ghanaian people know, and the whole world know that he's contested as not being a Nigerian of origin. He wasn't born in Niger.
That's interesting.
Yes, he wasn't born in Niger.
Hold on, before, did he win a clean, clear election?
No, he did not win a clean, clear elections. Election has been contested, and matter of fact, after the elections, the former president, Muhammad Usman, who was running against him, was supposed to be the winner. And he took, being a patriot, he didn't want to call people to go out and protest.
I'll say that again. The incumbent, the president existing,
the previous president,
who ran against Bazoum, was supposed to be the winner of the election.
He was supposed to be the winner of the elections.
You mean the election was rigged?
Yes, it was rigged.
In favor of the opposition
candidate?
candidate?
In favor of the opposition, in favor
Why?
of the incumbent. Actually, let me put it this way. Muhammad Yusufu and Bazoum are from the same party. And Muhammad Yusufu is the one who brought Bazoum, imposed Bazoum upon the Nigerian.
On the party for the election?
On the part of the same political party.
Yes, so so it's like his protege, he brought him.
Yes.
And said, so he was exiting as president.
He was exiting as president.
Then what was Bazoum doing that period, the two-term of
was Minister of Foreign Affairs.
He was Foreign Affairs Minister.
Yes.
So he's quite well known to the Nigerian people.
Yes, he's quite well known.
Okay, so the president sort of pushed the Foreign Affairs Minister to be the new candidate.
The new candidate.
And they won the election or they didn't win?
They did not win elections.
Who won?
Muhammad Usman.
Who was the opposition candidate?
Yes.
He won the election.
He won the elections.
As far as your reckoning
As
is.
far as my reckoning is concerned. And he took his case to the ECOWAS court in Nigeria. And they dragged it for like 2 years, only for to come back after 2 years and said, oh, you know, we're not competent in this matter. They dragged it for 2 years.
They lack jurisdiction,
Yes,
that's what they meant.
they lack jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So then Bazoum became president of Niger, and a lot of people didn't like him because the article in the Niger Constitution, Article 47, that say if you're now born in Niger and you become naturalized Nigerian, you could be anything you want, but you cannot be president.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yes.
So you can be foreign minister as he was.
You could be foreign
but
minister.
if you're not born in Niger, you
if
cannot
you're not
be
born in
president.
Niger, you cannot be president. You can
And
hold
he
any
became
power.
president.
He became president. He
So
became,
you are suggesting to our viewers that there was an illegality.
yes.
That's
Definitely.
interesting.
Yes. And we know how he became president because we know between the first round and the second round, the then president went to France. And then he called Bazoum over to France. It was probably at that time that everything was settled.
That they decided that
They
Bazoum
decided
will go for the
Bazoum would be
presidency.
president, Bazoum will become president. And something happened. The region that actually let Bazoum won is the former president, his region.
His home region. Is
His
it
home
east or
region.
west?
Is in the central of Niger, Tawa. So what happened was they won 900,000 votes, and that was unprecedented. Never before had a region brought 900,000 votes.
Wow.
That was the first time. So
So you think they padded the figure? It was
they
rigged. there was
did
all
part of
that.
the figures.
Do Nigerians generally feel that the election was not genuine?
A lot of Nigerians felt that it wasn't genuine, and they said it. But what happened is, even though they said Niger is a democracy, if you say something, you get locked up.
Oh, I see.
A lot of people get locked
So
up.
the first 2 years was harsh.
Very, very harsh. What happened is
People's human rights was abused.
human rights were abused, soldiers were killed, villages were moved from where they used to be for 500, 600 years.
Religion.
Yes, no, villagers.
Villages were
Villages,
moved.
yes.
What was their land used for?
The terrorists, I mean, you know, when they had a military intervention in Libya, it unleashed a lot of terrorists on the Sahel region.
So the terrorists were beating up their
They
citizens.
were like on motorcycles.
and
Could you
government
imagine
couldn't
this?
protect them.
Could you imagine that people on 100 motorcycles could come and fight against army, and a whole army? And they kill soldiers like they kill flies.
Why are you blaming the government for that?
If a government cannot protect its people, that government is not supposed to be a government. The government has part of it because they failed to provide enough weapon to the soldiers. And matter of fact, the Ministry of Defense, what they call the MDN gate, money allocated to provide weaponry to the soldiers were actually embezzled by the ministers and his cronies. So, and they gave the contract to some people who have no education at all on military, who went on board ammunition that even doesn't explode. So soldiers got killed by the hundreds. Sinago there was a military barrack.
So you think this is a good coup?
It's a very good coup.
You don't like democracy in Niger?
If democracy, my definition of democracy is the government of the people, by the people, for the people. The coup showed that all walks of Niger and all walks of life of Niger people came out celebrating what happened to this particular regime. So if democracy is for the people, the Niger people today are pretty happy about what happened.
But they didn't elect the coup leaders to be their president. They did not elect them.
They did not elect them. But what happened during these 12 years of some people, if I could tell you guys Ghanaians, 10 years ago when I came to Ghana, you don't see Niger children in the street begging. That's a sign of a country being sick.
I'll come back to you on the presence of France in Niger
Yes.
and the ECOWAS matter. But let me get to the expert, Alhassan Bello. What do you make of what he's saying?
Well, it tells you a lot of, it's a lot of revelation, but let's look at it selectively. The displacement of the villages stem from insecurity.
Why don't you come round? I don't think we're doing much on the touch screen today, are we? Do we have something to do? If we do,
Yeah, we have something to do.
Yeah, if we do, I'll go back there with you. So come round, let's sit down. let's have this conversation for 5 minutes. You can go behind me. I think it's faster. Yeah. Viewers, sorry, we're just realigning. So Hassan Bello will take his seat and then. So now it's easier for the production to put it together. Okay, so you were saying.
Well, like you said, the fall of Gaddafi's regime created a lot of insecurity across board.
Yeah.
But then, let's look at it selectively, okay? The relocation of the villages. The displacement didn't just happen in Nigeria alone. It cut across the Sahel. You have displacement in Nigeria. You have displacement in Chad. You have them across board. It's a collective failure of security within West Africa. And then, but if you look at the figures, Nigeria is not relatively better than even Mali and Burkina Faso and Nigeria.
I'd like you to get there, but I'd like you to start from where he started, the election, the credibility, the legitimacy of the president, which is the point he's making. That the election was flawed. That's what they think. We don't know whether it's right or wrong, but do you have any research in that direction? Have you heard about how Nigerians received the election?
Well, what I really saw in my own find was that there was this belief that he was handpicked by Yusufu to rule. So there's always had you always had that challenge.
But that's not illegal.
No, but always
the
had,
election being flawed is illegal.
So people felt that since he's handpicked, probably the election was rigged in his favor. But the most important is that people felt that he was handpicked deliberately for Yusufu to control, what do you call it, to control him behind the scene. And the fact that he's from the minority ethnic group in Niger, without a political base, it kind of makes the president very powerful. But for the MDM, the corruption case he was talking about, some of the current military men in power were also implicated.
In the same corruption
In the same
case?
corruption
The
case.
one that the money was given to them to buy weapons and they squandered it?
Because when Bazoum came to power, he inherited a lot of guys from Yusufu. And one of them was Salih Modi, who was a former chief of army staff, and was actually sent to UAE as an ambassador. And his replacement, General Abudu Isaka, Sidiku Isaka, was brought back. So if you are trying to blame Bazoum for corruption alone, then some of the military henchmen today in power are equally implicated. But there are those who believe the coup itself has there's a participation of the former president. He brought Bazoum in to be able to control behind the scene. But then Bazoum himself also came and was trying to create his own political base within the PNDS Taraya, that is the ruling party. So people felt that it is that power struggle between Bazoum and his former mentor, that might have ruffled feathers, and then the military coup was initiated.
What do you make of that?
Well, like he said, some of the soldiers were involved in the embezzlement of the country. I don't think it's correct because the person who took power, the general who took power, was actually the commander of the Presidential Guard. And he'd been with them for the 12 years that they were in power. And he took over. At that time, what happened is Niger has been divided along ethnic groups, along regions. And this particular guy who took over, the general who took over, came in because of what was going on. Bazoum was releasing terrorists who were arrested on a battlefield.
He was releasing
He released them.
From where?
He released them from prison.
Oh,
These guys were
released them.
arrested.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
these
okay,
guys were
okay.
arrested on the battlefield. Bazoum, they were locked up, and Bazoum released them and received them at the palace.
Oh,
That
really?
was, yes, that was.
He
first-
received the rebels,
he
former
released them
rebels.
from prisons, former rebels, former terrorists who killed Niger people.
He received them in the
He,
palace.
he released them from prison and received them at the
Why
palace.
did he do that?
That's the question. Why do you do that? Why do you do that? So that was the first case. The first case. The second case was he was trying to do the same thing again. And then General Chani, who's ruling right now, said, "Mr. President, the first batch of people you let go, they didn't bore us any good. Matter of fact, they arrested some Niger soldiers, videotaped them, and they shot them. Videotaped them and
killed
shot
them.
them. And he said, don't do it again. Don't do it again. It's
Why
not
did they
good."
kill them? What's the point?
The terrorists, they just, I don't know what they're killing people. We have no reason, we have no idea who these people are, why they keep going
But
on.
has it, since the coup of a month ago or a month and a half, has that stopped?
Well, we don't have the information that it wouldn't stop like that. It wouldn't stop overnight.
But are the soldiers capable of stopping it?
The
The
soldiers are
military
fighting.
junta,
They're
they-
fighting every day with the minimum means that they have. The minimum means that they have. See, the problem, like my brother said here, is not alone in Niger alone. It was in Mali, and Burkina Faso, and Niger. What they call the
Tri-border region.
the tribal region. Okay, but Mali and Burkina Faso, for the same reasons, did a coup, and they're getting better. They're getting better. They're fighting better. They get more weapons than Niger. Actually, Burkina Faso and Mali, when they fight, they chase these people. They come to Niger to seek shelter, and because in Niger we don't have enough coverage. We don't have enough weapons. We don't have enough cover. We don't have drones to look at what's going on. This is what's going on in Niger.
I see. Wow.
Corruption.
What is the future then for you in Nigerian? What is the future of Niger over the next 5 years? What do you expect?
The Niger's problem is leadership. If we were to get good leadership, Niger is a rich country in uranium. And that's the problem. That's the main problem that we have. Because behind all this that's going on in Niger...
Is there a French base in Niger? Do you know about it?
Yes.
Do Nigerians know about it?
We know about
Which part of Niger is it?
it. In the capital.
In Niamey?
In Niamey.
So
We
French
got
soldiers are there?
1,500 French soldiers in Niamey. They got planes, they got drones, they got all that. And
I hear they have an airport in the uranium enclave.
They have an airport at the uranium enclave. They take uranium. We're getting, actually, what we're getting? 5.5% of uranium.
Of uranium or of cash?
Of uranium. Of cash.
Yeah.
We're getting 5.5%
Of the uranium
of
that
the
the French
uranium
are
revenue.
mining.
Yes, of the revenue of uranium. That's why Niger is so poor. Niger doesn't have electricity. I was just listening to President Museveni a couple of days ago, when he's saying that when he heard about, he didn't even know what Niger is, but he said he found out that what they call kilowatt hour per capita in Niger is 51. In Uganda it's 300. In America it's 30,000. How can you produce uranium and you don't have electricity?
But how do you get electricity? We understand from Nigeria.
Yes, France, 60% of French energy is from Niger uranium. 60%. 60%.
60.
60.
Of French energy?
Of French energy.
That is powering Paris, Marseille, Bordeaux, and
all those cities that you know.
60%.
60%. France produces so much energy. France is selling so much energy to its neighbors. And Niger, we don't have power. Matter of fact, after this coup, we're getting power from Nigeria. Nigeria cut off the electricity. So we don't have electricity right now. We don't have electricity.
But how does France in Niger, where France is, is it a pipeline?
No, there's
The
no
uranium,
pipeline.
they export it?
No. They
do it as LPG?
They have
liquefied petroleum gas?
No. They have. They control the mines. They control the mines. Niger extraction of uranium started in 1971. Production, commercial production, and to date they extracted about 140,000 metric tons of uranium. The spot price since then.
Or the French have had it since 71?
Since 71. French discovered it in 1957 when they were looking for copper. And they discovered uranium. And then France owned about 63% or 64%
of the shares in
of
the
the
interest
shares.
in the company.
And Niger is supposed to earn about 36%, something like that. But France has about 56 nuclear plants producing energy for France. All that based on Niger uranium. I remember when I was in Niger at one point, that Sarkozy, who was then president in France, came over to discuss about uranium to the then president Tanja. And Tanja was wanted to renegotiate the percentage that Niger was getting about uranium. And I remember a journalist, a reporter, asked the French president, Mr. President, do you think France could help Niger in getting a nuclear plant for civil purposes? In Niger, we are hungry. We're not thinking about weapons. And he said, you know, it's possible. We know it's possible, but it's hard. It's difficult. You know, Niger has a problem with health issues. We're going to bring military soldiers, doctors to help Niger. That wasn't the question that was asked. We didn't ask him that. We didn't ask him that. We asked you a particular question about energy. Why do you go about saying it's going from chicken to donkeys? We didn't ask you about health issues. We ask you about anything.
So the people of Niger feel shortchanged by their relationship with
Very,
France.
very much so.
Is that why they are taking France away as their national
And
language?
that's why we want French out.
They're
French.
replacing it with what language?
Well, we didn't get to that point yet, but eventually it's going to get there. As you know, Rwanda was a French country before.
Rwanda is English.
Rwanda it became English later on.
I see.
Yeah, because what's the name?
Kagame.
Kagame got sick of it, of what France is doing. Do you know that France was there when the genocide happened in Rwanda?
Yeah, I know that.
France was there. So how can France be all around us? And France have all these drones where they could see one motorcycle from the satellites. And you can't see 100 motorcycles? It doesn't make sense. And then you're getting all this money from us. And yet we're poor. You see our children in the street begging. That's a sign that a country, a society is sick. Niger is sick. You've seen George Floyd in America. Mm-hmm. The police officer kneeling on his neck. France's knees on Niger's neck. Niger cannot breathe. Niger cannot breathe. And Bazoum were brought over by France so that they could serve French interest. They're now working for Niger interest. How can you have all these uraniums? How can you have all these minerals and be poor? Niger is the last country in terms of Human Development Index. Last country. And then you have all these minerals. You have oil, you have gold, you have uranium. Doesn't make sense, Mr. Paul.
It certainly doesn't make sense. Bello, what do you have to say? We have to be wrapping up. We have to do a presentation on Thursday, but this is a very interesting revelation.
Well, that's the problem with people who have always said that the French policy is more like a continuation of the colonial rule. And it's where you gather these, so every year there's this meeting they have in Versailles, in France, where you gather all the presidents, more like vassals. They come to listen to the French president make statements. So if you look at the era of Thomas Sankara, that's what he was trying to change. And then he was overthrown. There's always been that era where, it's not today, the anti-French sentiment has always been there. But you only need a trigger. And the insecurity in the Sahel triggered it. And you could see that it is spreading across board.